Hi guys, in today's review will be on a locomotive I've been after for a while. This locomotive is a Hornby Stanier 4P tank locomotive. I got mine off eBay and I paid £105. It is second hand and it all looks perfect. The product code you need for this model are 2636 and it's in its BR Early Crest livery. That makes it Era 4. And these came out around 2007, 2008. I don't think they came out for very long. So let's get into review and see if they hold up to today's tank engines that are out there on the market. So here goes. Starting off at the detail stuff you get to add to your locomotive. This being a 2010, 2000 model. You do get a DC jacket. I have quite a few of these from a few models. Hornby did them at the time. So you get all of them. You also get a detail bag, which get quite a lot of stuff in. So you get the brake rigging for the locomotive, you get the front and back coupler, you also get the sanding pipes to add yourself, drain cocks, vac pipe, steam pipe, steps, and there's a few other bits in there as well. Some of it is painted, some of it isn't. It's a bit surprised you get the sanding pipes in there, but you do. So you get a little bag with a few bits in. Then you get the standard Hornby manual of the time that tells you how to lubricate, run in, that sort of stuff. How to take the body off, how to take the base plate off. The DCC chip is a 6-pin and it is in the front of the locomotive by the looks of this diagram, but the diagram could be wrong. And then it also tells you about spares and repairs, that sort of thing. So you get quite a bit with them 3 items there. As we now move on to the front of the locomotive. This being a modern day-ish locomotive, it does have metal sprung buffers, and the buffers are correct for the LMS. They're like oval shape, and they're very shiny as well. We also have no coupler at the front because it's in the detail bag. We also have some guard irons knock stuff off the tracks. There's a hole for some detail parts on the buffer beam. The buffer beam itself is in red. We also have separate applied buffers as well. On the buffers themselves, you do have a flat bit for the crew to stand on, and again, they're all in red. I don't think there's any rivets or any part. There might be some rivets holding the buffers on, that's about it. As we move on up, we have the usual 3 lamp irons, which look to be separately applied. We also have some bracing, some steps, and then we have the smoke box door. Doesn't open or anything like that. We do have the number of the locomotive, which is 42468 in its BR livery. We also have a small handrail at the top and another lamp iron as well. We do have a shed code on this model. And the shed code is, I think, 5F. I believe that is Utoxeter. Then at the top we have the chimney as well. You can also see some steam pipes going down the sides too, and some lubricating pots as well. As we now move on to the side of the locomotive, to me both sides of the locomotive are exactly the same. Apart from this side, between the smoke box door and the start of the tanks, so above the cylinder. On the boiler we have some extra handrails and equipment by the looks of it, some lubricating stuff. That's the only difference I can see. I also can't see the reversing rod anywhere, so I'm guessing it's buried in one of the tanks. This model is a Stanier design. It's a 4P tank. It's a 264, following on from Fowler's 4P tank. So all the rods are metal. The wheels are black. The axles are covered up. They have a metal tyre. We also have some brake shoes added as well, which line up with the wheels, which is correct. We also have some gold piping underneath the cab where the steps are. That's the same on both sides. We have a zigzag style tank as well, which is in its early BR livery, which is lined with white, black and red lining, and it has the early crest crisply applied on the side of the tanks. The running board itself does have lining as well. I think it's the same coloured lining too. We also have some lubricating pots, some little handrails and a step on the side of the tank. As we move towards the cab area, the cab area itself does have glazing, and I think it could be a bar, because when it came out it was normally a bar. We also have a door fitted as well. Again, we have the number, I think, a classification. So the classification on here is a 4, and the number again is 42468. Again, around that extended bunker, we do have the lining that's on the tanks, which is white, black and red. The numbers themselves are in a cream colour. We also have the lovely bunker that Stanier designed. It's a lot different to the Fowler one. The Fowler one is flat and long. This one I quite like. And we do have a step on there as well. As we now move on to the part of the review that most people look forward to on a modern day review, and that is the cab detail. I will apologise first, I can't get any good shots of the cab, but everything in there is painted. The dials have numbers and a dial on and a white background. I think the water gauge does have artificial water in there. The piping is all coloured. The regulator, I think, is in red. It is a highly detailed. I even think there's wood flooring in the cab too. And then as we get to the other side of the front of the bunker, I believe there's a chute for the coal and a few cupboards for the firemen. Like I said, I do apologise, I can't really get any good shots of all this. I will try my best. As we now move on to the back of the bunker. On the back of the bunker, we do have metal sprung buffers, and they are oval like the front and they're quite shiny. We also have a couple already applied by myself. We also have guard irons to knock stuff off the tracks. The buffer beam housing is in red. I think we have a few rivets to the buffers themselves for the shanks. On the shanks we also have, I think, a flat area for the crew to stand on. I believe they would put a piece of wood across there to do whatever they had to do. Moving on up, looks like we have 3 lamp irons. I'm not sure if they're moulded on or not, but they look quite nice from here. We do have a few steps and handrails going up the side, and I think the handrails are metal. We also have another handrail in the centre, and we have a plaque as well. And as you can tell from this side, the bunker does sort of like slope a little bit at the sides. It's how Stanier designed it. And then we have the bunker at the top with an oval shape as well. And there's no lining on the bunker either. As we now do a air review on top of this Stanier tank engine, starting in the usual place, which will be the coal load. The coal load itself is removable. It's a little tight, but it's removable. Sadly, I can't remove it, but when it came, it was loose. And under there, you have a few rivets and some bracing for the bunker, which is great. The coal load itself is plastic. No issue with that because the model's quite heavy. And it's actually not a bad coal load for the time when it came out, 2008, 2009. Something like that. Also from this view, you can also see the steps and the weird shaped bunker that Stanier went for compared to the Fowler one. As we move along to the roof, the roof itself is in black. I think here we have a rain ducket as well. There's a few rivets going across it. We do have an air vent which you can move. It should be in the closed position on this photo, but on the overall photo it's open. That's a good touch, saying it was like from 2008. We had that feature already. As we move along now to the safety valves and whistles. The safety valves and whistles, which surprisingly are both metal, by the looks of this, very shiny. We also have some glazing in the front of the cab as well. Like I said, I'm not too sure if it's a bar or individually, because I can't get in the cab to have a look because it's so small and gapped in there, so it's not possible for me to get a proper look, but at least we have glazing. We also have a few washout plugs, and then we come to the lining. The lining is red, black and red. We have 3 lots of lining on the boiler. We also have some placeholders, I think, for tools. We also have a water filler cap on the side of the tanks, and there's a few rivets on there as well. I think we have a dome, could be separately applied. I think it's a top feed or for sanding pipes, I believe, as well next to that. I could be wrong. Then at the end we have the chimney. And as we get to the chimney, either side of the tanks, we do have different piping. There is also some handrails dotted around on this model and a few steps too. And then we get to the buffers. If I missed anything, I do apologise. And finally, as we move on to the underneath of this locomotive does have pickups, and they're on the 6 driving wheels. It's a copper strip. Hopefully I'll be able to get a photo of the strip. I already know that people on RN Web have said that it's a poor pickup design. I spoke to a few YouTubers and they've said the same, it's a poor pickup design. So maybe if Hornby re-release it, they could improve that. It's been a few years. So the 6 main driving wheels have the pickups, like I've said. Inside, it is a 5-pole screw-round motor inside. We also have a DCC ready 8-pin chip which I believe is at the front of the locomotive from what I've read, but they could be wrong. So you take off the base plate, which is, I think, 3 screws along with the front pony truck. The front pony truck itself does swivel around a little bit, and then it's all in there. I'm not sure if it's hardwired or not, so I don't really want to mess with the pickups. As you can see, we do have the gold piping underneath the cab on both sides. We also have the 4-wheel bogie underneath the bunker. Again, this is very, very loose. It wobbles around quite a lot. I've had it done 180 degrees, 360 degrees, and it has got stuck a few times, so just be careful with that. And it has a tendency of knocking off the steps too. There's no pickups on any of the bogie wheels, which is a big shame. We also have the brake shoes, brake pads lining up with the wheels as well. Like I said, there's no sanding pipes, they are in a detail bag. We have 3 holes on the cylinders, I believe, for the drain cocks, and then we have the buffers at either end. You might be able to see on some of the views the motor and the gubbins inside. That's about it. I've got very basic knowledge of model railways. So yeah guys, that's it on the tracks. Next up will be the usual tests I do on these models, or any models I have. And Hornby are normally good at this, and that is the second radius and points test. So here it goes, shall we? Pretty smooth for an old locomotive. We're talking at 20, that's impressive. Very smooth. A little bit of a clicking noise, but yeah, for 2008 model, yeah, it's wonderful. And it's second hand as well. So yeah, it managed that pretty well. I was quite impressed, actually, seeing the warnings I got off other people about the pickups on this model that Hornby did. It ran pretty well. I was quite impressed, and it can do second radius. Yeah, there's a slight click, but it can do it. It's great. It is a second-hand model. Next up will be some slow speed, and I'll find it a train or two to pull, and I'll see you at the end. So here goes. It's not bad. 20 on the controller. Very smooth, and the track is dirty, if I'm honest with you, and this is DCC ready as well. So yeah guys, that's the end of the running session and the review. Before I give my opinion on the locomotive, I'll tell you what it was pulling. So in part 1 we had just a mixture of freight with 2 different designed LMS brake vans at the front and back, and just a random stock in between. Then the bit you just seen, it had some Mark 1, Hornby Mark 1 / railroad style coaches. Because it's a BR livery loco, I don't have any suburban coaches. And this under BR is a mixed traffic. Under the LMS, I think it was a passenger loco only. So I got mine from eBay, of all places. I paid £105, the £5 was postage. So I paid £100 to get the postage, which for me is a great price for. It's an oldish model, but it still does look modern today standards. The guy on eBay showed a video of it running on his description, so I went for it. Normally I don't buy off eBay or second-hand locos, but I did this time. I paid £100, and if I'm honest with you, I don't regret it. I've seen some of the prices on a few shops of second-hand stuff of this. I think Olivia Trains missing the detail bag, almost £200. I think I've seen another one again around the £200 for second-hand stuff. Given that if Hornby were to release it today, you are talking around £230-ish, possibly for this model going off the Fowler 4P they've released recently for the Stanier range of the Big Four. For me, the pickups issue, I didn't have any. Like I read RM Web, I read people's reviews or listened to people's reviews, I read a few magazines, and they all said pickup issues. And mine ran on pretty dirty track. If I'm honest with you, it does need a clean, it's due a clean, but I thought I'd get this review out, and the track is dirty. If I rub my fingers across it, my fingers come black with 2 lines, so it needs a clean. And again, it ran spotless. It was doing what, 20, 30 on the Gauge Master Combi. It wasn't that fast. Granted, my board is slightly slow, so it might look faster in some places than others, but I had no issues. It didn't stutter, it didn't do anything like that. The only thing I would say, if you get this version, because I don't think Hornby will release it yet, if you get this version, honestly just keep the wheels clean, keep the pickups clean. That may help it, but again, I haven't had need to do any of that. This version probably does need an MOT. There's a slight click, but it's nothing off-putting or anything like that. It didn't stutter or anything, so I'm happy with it. For me, for £100 for a second-hand locomotive, which if I'm honest with you does look new, if I'm honest with you looks hardly used, is a bargain if I'm honest with you. Hornby should really release this again at some point. It would be great if they did for the people who missed out the first time, e.g. people like me and others who missed out the first time and have to buy second-hand stuff. There's nothing wrong in second-hand. Most of my rolling stock is second-hand. Locos, not as much this day and age. But personally, I can't find any faults with my version of the model. So yeah, I hope Hornby do re-release it. Hopefully in the LMS black would be great. I don't think they had maroon, but LMS black would be great. And I think there's another version that Stanier did. I think it was a 3-cylinder or was it a 2-cylinder? It's the alternative one to this. I don't think there's much difference in the engines themselves from what I've looked at. But that's just my opinion on this model. Let me know if you've got one. Do you have any issues with it, or is it a good runner? And hopefully I will see you in the next one. So please take care and goodbye.
Thank you.